Are you ready?
Let's get ready to rumble! Can't wait!
This is Moffett on the mic on the A1 Sports Network.
Bow to the masters. Break it down!
Let's do it. How you doing, everybody, and welcome to the Moffett on the Mic radio show, courtesy of the A1 Sports Network. We are live once again on Zoom. Look how you can follow the show as always on Instagram at Moffett on the Mic, Twitter at Moffett on the Mic, and my Facebook page as well. I am Craig Moffett, and of course, this show is not complete without the founder, head honcho, chief book and bottle washer. I am talking about the people's producer, the founder of the A1 Sports Network. I'm talking about Mr. Chris Clem.
What's up, Craig? I'm very excited today. You know, I always love when we have on people to do interviews and whatnot. You know, and it's real funny. You know, every time we've had an interview, someone on the show, you know, I've always tweeted it out on the A1 account. But today, you know, the Islanders fans, they always manage.
I'm correct, man.
They always come strong. You know, I posted on the A1, and then a bunch of people just like the tweet. You know,
They bleed blue and orange, man.
Exactly.
They love the Islanders. So
that's what you gotta love about Islanders fans. They are die hard as they come. You know, and even, you know, as much as we love having Jake on and Isaac, and even we had Tim Healy on, you know, Mets fans, UFC fans, and Jake Asman fans didn't come out of the woodwork, you know, but Islander fans, they're die hard. They will ride or die with this team, and I love it.
I personally believe Jake Asman has groupies. He can't admit that. I don't know. Like, he won't confirm that. I mean, I may have to ask him next time he's on the show. But no. But as Clem was mentioning before, Islander fans are tonight. We're going to have Andrew Gross, Islanders beat writer for Newsday. He's going to be joining us in about 10 minutes. I've sent him all the details, so hopefully he'll be on in the next 10 minutes or so. We got a lot to talk about with the the playoffs coming up, and probably going to start, looks like, closer to August. And we have a lot to talk about with him. He's been a past guest on our show. He always does an awesome job. Definitely check out his columns in Newsday regarding the Islanders. Clint, today was a weird day because I kind of thought it was somebody said something stupid, and then somebody trumped that. Like, okay?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a weird day because, you know, the George Floyd protests continue. I feel like they've been more peaceful than they were in recent days. Today was the service, the funeral service for, or the just memorial. And it all started last night with Drew Brees, as Drew Brees came out and basically said that kneeling for the flag, he just didn't believe, basically, in not too many words. I don't remember his exact quote, but it basically was just like, it's not American if you know, it's a slap in the face and all that stuff.
Right.
And look, here's what I'm going to say to that. I respect Drew Brees' opinion. I am not going to sit here and criticize him for voicing his opinion. Everybody else gets to voice their opinion, and they take a hit or miss to it. They either take a shot or they don't take a shot. Okay? Drew Brees really believes this. He has an open forum to say what he feels.
Yes.
Here's my problem with it. The timing.
Yeah.
The timing is bad. The timing is bad on more than one occasion. And the reason is because you have thousands and thousands and thousands of people protesting in every state, 50 states, Clem, protesting police brutality, which we never thought would be possible. And it took, the 2000th or, how many incidents before they finally woke up to realize what was going on. This is a very, very sensitive subject right now, and rightfully so. The fact is that you can argue that police have gotten away with this stuff for years and years and years. You can also argue that voices have gone unheard. When they've tried to do it the right way with Kaepernick, for example, it was completely destroyed by the press. You know, this is a slap in the face to the military and all that stuff, when everybody knew that wasn't true because Kaepernick discussed it with former military, on what was the best way to go about this. Brees is entitled to his opinion. However, the timing of it not good.
Mm-hmm.
And he has taken so much crap for it to the point where he had to basically come out and give an apology for something that he believes in.
Yeah.
Which I'm also not a fan of either, because if you're going to stand by, if you're going to say it, stand by it.
Yeah. 100%.
Don't take the pressure of everybody else giving you crap for it, because that's the problem. No one wants to, if you're man enough to say it, then be man enough to back it up. And even though his teammates took him to task, Malcolm Jenkins especially, I don't know if you saw the video.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay. But it got just progressively worse. Okay. Jake Fromm came out with some text in 2019. Jake Fromm, of all people, who was drafted in the 5th round by the Buffalo Bills. Basically, he is a non-factor in the NFL right
Yeah, he's going to get
now. Not matter.
It's cut. Would not
So
be surprised if it's cut.
But do you see what I'm talking about, though, Clem?
Yeah.
It's just that you say things, and then you immediately got to run to apologize for it. If you feel this way, stand by it. I'm just saying timing sucks. And this timing right now is just brutally bad. But that's not the worst part of today. The worst part is just to goes to show you how much of a double standard people have. And a double standard for, like, and I'm sorry, but like for Fox News. Did you see what Laura Ingraham said?
I mean, these.
Come on, dude. Like, do you see what I mean? By the way, let me ask you a question. I have my air conditioner on. Does that sound bad?
No.
You don't hear it?
I don't even think I hear it, yeah.
Okay, good. For those of you who don't know what's going on, I'm sure you have to know, it's all over Twitter. Laura Ingraham basically came to Drew Brees' defense. She basically played a video of, they have two sides. When guys like LeBron James and Kevin Durant were voicing their displeasure, she immediately came out and basically said something along the lines of, like, you know, you get paid to dribble a basketball. We don't need to hear your political opinions. We don't need to hear your opinions.
Mm-hmm.
However, Drew Brees comes out and says what he feels, and she's running to his defense, basically saying he has every right to say what he has to say.
Right.
Can you just sense the racism in that, Clint?
It's not a good look. It really is not a good look. I saw that. I'm like,
you see what I'm getting at? You see why nobody takes – you see why everybody is so anti-President Trump now? Do you see why everybody is so anti this whole thing? It's such a double standard when people do that.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't fault Drew Brees for saying what he said. Okay? It's just the timing of it stinks.
Yeah.
Okay?
Like,
and now she's coming out with this double standard. And that's always been the problem with Fox News, is that Fox News is very hypocritical. They are the kings of the double standard. When they were going on and on saying that coronavirus was a hoax, then they saw the number of people dying gradually going up and skyrocketing at one point.
Yeah.
Then they were coming out saying, we never said it was a hoax. See, like, you can't have the best of both worlds. It's one thing I've always said.
See,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, here's my take on the Drew Brees thing. Bad timing, 100%. But, like, I don't think he meant it in the way where everyone is taking it. And I've made this statement before, too. Don't care. You want to kneel. I understand why Colin Kaepernick did it. I get why it was a huge impact on this country. I knew why he was kneeling for. My thing is, I just wouldn't do it during the national anthem. I will support you 100% in your fight for this cause. I will 100% support you in this fight. But kneeling during the national anthem is something I will not do, and I think that's what Drew Brees was just trying to say.
And that's fine. And like I said, he's entitled to his opinion, man. Like, and I respect it. Listen, you know, you're going to take one isolated incident with Drew Brees and paint them out to be this horrible, 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 horrible individual.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's been a huge role model for the city of New Orleans. Okay? I think even recently, didn't he donate? He donated money to COVID relief. I think he donated like $5 million to COVID money.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay? So we're not going to isolate Drew Brees off of one minor talking point.
Yeah.
Okay? The timing of it sucks because you have African Americans in an uproar, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. Okay? They're tired, they're frustrated, they're angry, and they have every right to be angry as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That being said, though, let's not vilify Drew Brees as like the Antichrist, or let's not vilify him as this horrible, 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 horrible human being because he said something that he felt. I don't necessarily it was a racist comment, if that's what people were trying to make it out, because Jamal Adams kind of took him to task on it.
Yeah, I saw.
But at the end of the day, he said what he felt. It's his opinion. We need to respect it. Like I said, the timing sucks. That's the only issue I have with his comment. It's not the fact of what he believes. It's the fact of the timing of it all is brutal, just brutal. And right now, when you have not only African Americans, you're talking, white, Hispanic, Asian, anybody who's protesting on behalf of George Floyd and on behalf and against police brutality, this is only stoking the fire more. It's only adding fuel to the fire. That's the only reason why I think it was just in bad taste.
Yeah, again, terrible timing for this to come out. And, like I said, I don't think he meant it in the way everyone's taking it. I just think that I think that's what you just don't kneel for the national anthem. Whether I 100% what I think if I'm on what he think he meant, then I agree with him 100%. Like I would not kneel for the national anthem. That's just me. I love this country. I love the flag, et cetera, et cetera. But I will 100% support your cause in every other way possible, just not kneeling for the national anthem. And Andrew is here.
All right, let's put him through. And right now, joining us, he's been a past guest of the show. We always look forward to having him talk some Islander hockey. We are talking to Andrew Gross, Islanders beat writer for Newsday. Andrew, are you there?
Yeah, how you guys doing? Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. How's everything going?
Things are well. I don't think my headphones are working, so I'll just do it like this.
All right, no, we can hear you loud and clear, so whatever is more comfortable for you.
Yep.
All right, so I'm just going to get right to it. My first question is, what do you think overall about the NHL's plan for returning?
I think it's a fair plan. I don't think any of the 7 teams that were excluded were going to do any damage anyway. I know the Devils maybe, I think I had read if they had won their last game, they might have snuck in on points percentage, but, they had long thought they had been eliminated. So, I'm fine with the format. I think it preserves, as we saw today, it preserves the 16-team playoffs with, a very fair 4 rounds of best-of-7 series. The danger in a best-of-5 series, I guess, if you're a higher seed, is you really can't have a one bad game, which is why there's so much consternation over the fact that the Canadians get in. They're playing the 5th seed in the Pittsburgh Penguins, but they have Carey Price, who's arguably the best goalie in the league. And, he can steal a series, and then you have a top seed like that knocked out in a best of 5. It's why the NHL, years and years ago, the Islanders won their first Stanley Cup. It was a best of 5 first round against the Kings. And, you go back even further in 75, their first great playoff win, that series against the Rangers, was a best of 3, which is, almost inconceivable today. I think once play resumes and you get into the playoff tournament, it's going to be as close to, what we could have expected with the regular playoffs. Given the circumstances, obviously the play is not going to be as crisp right at the beginning, although those qualifying series and allowing the top 4 teams to play a round robin, that'll at least get some of the game legs underneath the guys. But I think the intensity will be there once the playoffs do start, even without the fans in the stands.
Now, what do you think the Islanders drew the Panthers in the first round? What do you think their chances of beating them are?
Yeah, well, they won all 3 games in the regular season, but I don't know how much of a litmus test that is all these months later. They haven't played, I think it was December 12th was the last time they played. That was down in Florida. That was a 3-1 Islanders win, but, it's 3-1 because Adam Pelech scores an empty netter with 3 seconds left. They beat them at home once at the Coliseum very early in the season. Actually, the win at the Coliseum started that team record 15-0-2 streak, and that was a shootout win. And then they had another 1-goal win in Brooklyn in November. So the teams played each other very, very closely. But I don't think they're necessarily the same teams that they were back then. The Islanders obviously have been pretty inconsistent since Thanksgiving, getting Pellick back from that Achilles tendon, as well as Cizikas and Boychuk being healthy. Those two were down when the season was paused. That's a plus on the Islanders side, but they have to show that they can play with consistency, which they haven't for a long time. And on the Panthers side, I really didn't like it when they traded away Vincent Trocheck to the Carolina Hurricanes. I think Trocheck is one of the sneaky, good, underrated players in this league. And I thought that took away from the Panthers lineup without him there. But, talking to Dale Talon, I think it was last week, he said the two teams were comparable, and I agree. It should be a bunch of 1-goal games in this best of 5.
Speaking of the Panthers, they have a lot of top scorers: Jonathan Huberdeau, Mike Hoffman, Evgeny Dadonov, all 20-goal scorers, over 20-goal scorers. Whereas the Islanders, only recently, when they had acquired Jean-Gabriel Pageau, he was their top scorer, I think, for a while before. I think Brock Nelson finished with 26 goals. Is there another player on the Panthers that maybe we're overlooking, or the Islanders may overlook, that could play a huge role in this series?
That's a tough one. I mean, I'm not, I'll be honest, I haven't started my real heavy studying on the Panthers roster yet. I mean, they got, I know he's not a top line player, but I think having Brian Boyle's playoff experience on that roster is a plus for that team. I think, as you've seen over the past few years, a lot of teams have gone out looking to acquire Brian Boyle for that kind of intangible. Mm-hmm. The Predators last season, the Maple Leafs under Lou a few seasons back got him from Tampa for that for the playoff run and for the playoffs. Barkov is just, if he wasn't playing in Florida, Barkov would be probably talked about as one of, or I should say talked about more consistently as just one of the NHL's real elite players. You have to watch out where he is on the ice at all times. And he really could be a tipping factor in a series. And also, the Panthers are a different team, just going in with Sergei Bobrovsky, who really is, he's had, good moments in the playoffs, certainly won 2 Vezinas. I know Roberto Luongo is a very good goalie, but I think having the Bob is that's a check in the Panthers side as well.
Craig mentioned it just for a hot second. Before Pageau became on the team, the Islanders didn't really have a big goal scorer on the team, and, Barzal hasn't really taken that next step yet. So in this I'm talking off season already. Do you see the Islanders finally trying to, replace Tavares, getting that elite player that they've been missing since he left?
I'll be honest, I don't think they're going to have room under the salary cap to go big game hunting. It would have to be via trade. And, Barzal is just a different player, obviously, than Tavares, both top line centers. But Barzy is such a pass first guy that, he has to be reminded all the time by Barry Trotz to shoot. Barzy just plays a different style game. And the hope is that Anders Lee and Jordan Everly on his wings, can really do a lot of the heavy lifting of the goal scoring. Brock Nelson certainly has flourished under Barry Trotz as a second line center. And I think it slots Pageau in. I know he was playing top 6 with the Senators, but, he's a really, really good third line center. That's a lot of center depth. Mm-hmm. If you also talk about a healthy Casey Cizikas, and, just like baseball where you look for depth up the middle, I think, those 4 centers the Islanders can put up, pretty much against anyone in the NHL in terms of center depth. And that's a really good backbone for any team to have. Obviously it needs to translate into more scoring. I think Pajot will help with that ultimately. He had 7 games with the Islanders when he comes over from Ottawa. He has a goal in each of his first 2 games and goes without a point over the next 5 games. You could see he was pressing a little bit, because you always want to make a good first impression. The Islanders go 0-3-4 in his 7 games as they go into the pause. But I thought, even without the wins, you could see how Pajot was going to help the team long term. And he kind of slotted everyone into a more comfortable role. And, all season, Barry Trotz had been trying to figure out where to put Derek Brassard and, how to fill that third center hole. And, I think Brass on Pajot's wing is a really good, compromise. It allows Beauvillier to really, solidify a second line role with Brock, and I just thought things fit into place a little bit better with Pajot on the team.
I want to get back to Barzal for a minute. Once the Islanders lost John Tavares, it kind of got this vibe that they were really hoping or trying to have Barzal be the guy that almost like passing the torch from Tavares to Barzal. And my question is, and Barzal's been good. I don't know if he's been elite, and maybe it's just my expectations of him could be a little higher than other people's. But my question is, do you think the team put a lot of pressure on Barzal to be the next Tavares, or not really?
No, not to be the next Tavares, because like I said, they're totally different kinds of players. Look, if you know Barzy, he's an incredibly confident, bordering on overconfident type of kid. And he is still just a kid. It's his 3rd season in the NHL. He's 22. There's still a lot of room for growth here. The pressure on Barzy is the stuff he puts on himself. I've talked a lot about this with him. He wants to be the face of the franchise. He desperately wanted to be the man as the number 1 center. And, he wanted to step up when JT signed with Toronto. So I don't think there's any pressure from the organization. This is all what Barzy wants for himself. And he's really motivated to prove that he can be, that type of guy.
Just to touch on that one other thing really quickly, because when we had you on my show a while back, that was when Tavares was about to hit free agency. And now Barzal is a restricted free agent after the year. Is it basically Lou's Lamoriello's primary objective this offseason is to get Barzal signed to an extension?
And Ryan Pulak and Devon Tays. Yeah, I mean, that's when the offseason comes, those are, before anything else happens, you got to solidify the future. And I don't think there's, you're not questioning that in a best case scenario, the Islanders go forward long term with Matthew Barzal as their number 1 center and Ryan Pulak as a top pair defenseman and Devon Tays as one of your power play quarterback type guys. I think all 3 are, integral to the future of the franchise. And, before you talk about, trying to acquire this piece or that piece or this scoring wing or anything like that, I do think you need to lock down those 3 pieces that you have in tow already.
Now, to go off of what Craig was just mentioning about Barzal and you mentioning about the pressure, I don't think, like the team is asking him of so much to put all that pressure. I think it's more of like the fans, because we saw how good he was his rookie year. And then once Tavares left, we figured as fans, he would take over the team. This would be our guy. But he hasn't, really done that yet, at least yet, And like you mentioned, Barry Trotz keeps reminding him to shoot. Saw plenty of games. I'm like, you got to shoot the puck, man. Like, he's a pass first guy, and I get that. But as, the number 1 guy on the team, I figure, he's got to be shooting this puck a lot more often than he is.
Yeah, and I talked to him earlier in the year when his goals and assists were kind of equal. I remember talking to him, and he admitted it was very strange for him to look at the score sheet and see X amount of goals and the same X in the assist column. He's just used to having much more assists.
Yeah.
I think what a lot of fans get caught up on is he had that spectacular rookie season. What was it? 63 assists, right? But that's under Dougie Waite, where they played a much different system than they're playing under Barry Trotz. I think if you look, at the percentage of points Barzy is accumulating compared to the rest of the team, it's probably still around the same percentage as when he was playing under Dougie Waite's system. I don't have that in front of me, but the points are down all across the board under Barry Trotz, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's an indication that Barry has finally gotten the Islanders to figure out that playing defense first is the way you got to win in this league right now, not, kind of just throwing the pucks on the ice and letting the guys skate around like it's free play, and Barzy certainly thrives in that system, as you can see with the assists. And he also had 22 goals, that, 80 some odd points is a really, really good year. And the next year, I think the points were down by 60 or by 20 or so. He was in the 60s his sophomore year, and he was kind of projecting, around that for this season, if not a little bit more. But you talk to both Barry and Barzy about his development, and Barry will tell you that Barzell is light years ahead of where he was his rookie season in terms of understanding the overall play. There's still times, and both, and Matthew knows this, there's still times where he kind of reverts to that and maybe cheats a little bit, or is not turning his feet as much, or, is not paying as much attention to the defensive game as he needs to. And Barry, will point that out to him. But, in general, I don't think you equate the drop in points to necessarily a regression in his game. I think his game has progressed, overall.
We are talking to Islanders beat writer Andrew Gross on the Moffett on the Mike show. The Islanders, barring any last-minute changes, they'll be playing the Florida Panthers in the first round of the playoffs. Most likely, looks like August is the initial start. Probably
August. You're looking at training camps somewhere between July 10th and July 14th,
right.
Probably closer to July 14th, and training camps going, minimum of 2 weeks, probably closer to 3 weeks. Yeah, you're looking at probably, right around an August 1st start.
So Andrew, right before the NHL season was suspended, the Islanders were really struggling. They had, I think they were 0-4-3 in their last seven games, and including like a really bad loss to the Ottawa Senators. My question is, and I hate to use this as spin this as a positive, is it safe to say that due to the pandemic, which caused the season to be suspended, it was really a blessing in disguise for the Islanders?
Oh, I don't know. If you're only talking about hockey,
I really hate to spin that I'm really trying not to spin that as a positive, but the way they were playing, it was arguably that they could have missed the playoffs had everything.
Yeah, no, they were 1 point out. They were 9th place on when everything stopped on March 12th. Barry has gone on the record several times saying, including with me, saying he had no doubts this team was making the playoffs.
Right.
Saw an uptick in their play. But you know what? I mean, there were upticks in other teams' play. I mean, the Rangers, I think, were playing better than the Panthers or the Islanders.
Mm-hmm.
When play stopped, they with Shesterkin in net, they had really found something there, and and Mika Zibanejad was just going nuts. And the Islanders didn't have a player like that, either in net or going nuts. To lead a team. So I thought there was a real danger when the season paused of the Islanders never really getting it back on track. They had just been inconsistent for so long. Really is, November 25th, I flew back from Los Angeles, really on Thanksgiving Day, the 26th. But they lose in LA on the 25th. And it was a bad loss, and that snapped the 15-0-2 thing. You think, okay, they're they're bound to, they weren't going to go, with a point in every game the rest of the way. So a loss, you give them a loss, but it was like, it was like 2 seasons up until that moment and then after, and they just could never get their game to consistently go. And then on January 2nd, when Pelech, injures his Achilles tendon, if there's a benefit, if there's a strong benefit to the Islanders, basically going away on March 12th and, not getting to play again until August 1st.
Right.
It's that Adam Pelech will be healthy.
That's a
when
huge,
this starts.
yeah.
And at the time on January 2nd, it was kind of pitched as a season-ending injury, and he would be ready for training camp, basically. So you do get Pelech back, and I think that really solidifies the defense. But, let's face it, the Islanders had played a month plus of inconsistent hockey with Pelech healthy. Now, I know, they had injuries all the way through. Clutterbuck, gets his wrist slashed, and he's out from December 19th until I think it was early February or whatever it was. The team only had that fourth line of Cizikas between Martin and Clutter together for 19 of their 68 games. So if you look at a reason why the team really didn't gain any traction, Barry really relies on those three to set an identity early in the game, early in every period. At the same time, you look up and down the standings, good teams overcome injuries. And that's something the Islanders, they weren't really challenged in Barry's first season by some crucial injuries like they were this season. Mm-hmm. And the Islanders just did not rebound to some of the, having Clutter out of the lineup for 30 games, having Pelech out of the lineup for 2 months before the pause. The Islanders just seemed a little, fragile is not the right word, but it just seemed like they could not overcome these absences in their lineup. And, you look at the Columbus Blue Jackets, the job that John Tortorella did with that team, with pretty much, it seemed like at one point or another, every player on the Blue Jackets roster was injured this season. And somehow Torts kept them, in the hunt the whole way. Same thing with the Pittsburgh Penguins, Malkin being out, Crosby being out, Murray and Net, going through injuries, and I'm sure Letang was hurt too. Somehow they wound up with the 5th seed. So, it's great that the Islanders are going to go into this healthy, but every other team is going to go into this healthy as well. So just being healthy is not good enough to say that the Islanders can somehow, regain that consistency they had at the beginning of the season.
Now, you mentioned, the injuries that were brought on by the Islanders. And one guy they brought up, I think it was when Clutterbuck went down, was Oliver Wahlstrom. He was the highly touted rookie they got last year. Now, when he got brought up, I didn't think he was playing bad at all. I thought he was actually playing good for, his age, him coming up midway through the season. So why, with such a young guy, why didn't they keep him on the roster, just to let him get that experience when he wasn't really playing that bad?
Plain and simple, they sent him back down to Bridgeport to work on his defensive game. They know he can score. I mean, that's never a question with him. And, you talk about a Barzy, having to convince Barzy to shoot all the time. That's not a problem with Oliver. He's going to take that shot. He's got a shooter's mentality. And if he gets his game in order the way the organization wants it, he's exactly what everyone's been talking about in terms of acquiring that, shooter mentality, scoring wing that's really needed on the Islanders in the top 6. But, his minutes were decreasing, and Barry just couldn't trust him on the ice in those big situations. And if Barry couldn't trust him on the ice, then you can't keep him on the roster because he's taking up a roster spot. Now, he went down to Bridgeport and was told to work on that part of the game. And, hopefully I can catch up with, the Bridgeport coach and ask him about that, the development of Wally's defensive game, because that'll be the tipping, the crucial thing that determines whether he's able to play 16 minutes a game at the NHL level.
Andrew, I was just reading earlier today that they've extended the deadline by, I think, a month with regards to the team possibly signing Ilya Sorokin, from the KHL. I think it had to do with either just because of everything going on with the pandemic, and I think they were just trying to extend it because for the possibility of being on the playoff roster. Do you see Sorokin playing any type of role in the postseason this year if they get him signed before everything gets started? Or is this more going to be for the 2020-21 season?
Well, it depends who you ask. The NHLPA will tell you they want these players signed as they have been in the past and eligible for the playoffs. And the NHLPA is pushing strongly for that. And, if they get their way, I don't think there's any doubt that the Islanders would immediately try and sign Ilya and get him on the roster, because it does seem like teams are going to, they have unlimited goalies. So I think at minimum, each team's going to carry 3 goalies. Mm-hmm. So if the NHLPA wins that fight, and you saw today, the NHLPA got 2 of their big asks as the formal return to play format was introduced, and that is one best of 7 series in all 4 playoff rounds. There was some talk of maybe to speed up play, there would be a best of 5 in that first round after the qualifying series. The PA definitely wanted best of 7, and they got it. And the other thing that the PA really wanted was for the reseeding on a round-by-round basis within each conference. Whereas the NHL strongly prefers the bracket because that's something they can market, and get people involved on their website, pick the, like the NCAA, bracket busters, all that type of stuff. The PA strongly wanted the reseeding, which I think is the right way to go. It's the fairer system, under the bracket within the divisions. It's crazy how many times the best teams in the conference are playing in the second round instead of in the conference final. It's crazy.
That happened last year. Right?
It happens.
I forgot, basically one team really got the short end of the stick, while the other one, the Islanders got the Hurricanes, which I think, I think that wasn't how it really should have been. I think weren't they supposed to play somebody like a much higher seed? But somehow,
the Lightning were knocked out by the Blue Jackets and that kind of. But you go back just with Barry Trotz. How many times did Barry Trotz with the Capitals have to play the Penguins in the second round? So anyway, the point is that the PA got both a best of 7 series and the reseeding, and perhaps that bodes well for being able to get these players signed and onto the playoff rosters. You look at the Avalanche last year, Cale Makar being able to go right into the playoffs. You look in 2012, the Rangers being able to bring Chris Kreider right off the college campus into the playoffs, right up from the Frozen Four. So there is a historical precedent that this is the way things have been done. And then all of a sudden, this year, Bill Daly is saying, well, we think it's unfair after the trade deadline for teams to be able to bring in quote unquote ringers. And I think the players, and to be fair, probably the general managers are going, time out, wait a minute. Why is this year, we all know why this year is different from every other year, but I think there's a very strong push, and I think if that gets approved, and to me, this is the holdup between Sorokin and the Islanders right now, as both sides wait to see how this is resolved, and that way they can structure, the most favorable contract for the circumstance. And I don't think there's any doubt that if Lou can get Sorokin onto the roster for this season, he has no issue burning that, first year of an entry level for Sorokin. I mean, the kid's going to be 25. You know, so you know, it's time for him to be over here, and I think the organization wants him on the roster, you know, ASAP.
Now, speaking of Sorokin, is this kid like, you know, is all the hype around him that amazing? Like, I really don't know much about him other than like he's supposed to be the next big thing for the Islanders, and will he be the Islanders franchise goalie? Because they've been lacking one for the longest time.
Well, I certainly think that's the hope. You got Grice on the last year of his 3-year deal. You've signed Varlamov for 4 seasons, so you got him for 3 seasons after. And I certainly think, you know, best case scenario for the organization, you got Sorokin teamed with Varlamov next season. Mm-hmm. And you know, I have never seen this kid play live. And a kid, you know, again, he's going to be 25 soon. You know, his performance in the KHL certainly indicates that he's, you know, one of the world's better goalies. You know, Semyon Varlamov, I believe, said that Ilya Sorokin was the best goalie in the world not playing in the NHL. He said that, you know, way back last summer when he signed with the Islanders. You know, I've seen video of him, and not, you know, and certainly he was a playoff MVP for CSKA Moscow as well, you know, so, you know, at least he's recognized as one of the better KHL players. And I think what you go by is you heard a lot of the same hype with, you know, Igor Shesterkin coming over to North America. Mm-hmm. And once he got into the Rangers net, you know, you found out a lot of that hype was justified with his play. So I think the hope certainly is that the same can hold true for Ilya Sorokin, that, you know, the hype is going to match, you know, what you see in net, because there's a track record of one of his, you know, former competitive opponents and also their friends, you know, coming over to North America. Now, Shesterkin got some time in the AHL, which, you know, Sorokin will not get if he's on the roster for this season. So that might be a little bit of a difference, but, you know, I know there are adjustments. You know, it's a bigger rink in the KHL. You're playing on an international Olympic-sized rink, and that changes the angles and the physicality around the net and all that type of stuff. And Sorokin probably won't have a book on the shooters like he would in the KHL, but, you know, stopping the puck is stopping the puck. And if you can do it really well, you can do it in the NHL as well. And, you know, so far, Sorokin has proven to be very good at stopping the puck.
One thing I liked about last offseason was how Lou Lamoriello was very aggressive going after Panarin until he eventually went to the Rangers. So I guess my question is more like that from Field of Dreams: if you build it, they will come. And if the Belmont Arena goes into, once it's completed, will that give the Islanders an advantage, you think, in bringing in big free agents? Or will the Islanders always seem to be playing kind of from behind, or worse yet, when you're competing against the Rangers, that player will choose the Rangers regardless?
No, I think Panarin, you know, you can't throw a blanket over it, because each player wants different things. I know there are a lot of guys on the Islanders who would recoil at the thought of living in Manhattan as compared to a suburban community on Long Island. You know, but there are some players who, you know, would be fine living, you know, in Manhattan. It's all particular tastes. I wouldn't say the Belmont Arena is going to give the Islanders any kind of advantage over any other NHL team, but I would say it will even the playing field and put them on par with every other NHL team. So now, you know, the Islanders will not have to sell themselves twice as hard to get half as much done. You know what I'm saying?
Because I always felt that would seem to be the reason why, because nobody really liked going to Barclays Center. I remember, for example, Thomas Vanek was very, very vocal about that before he left.
Yeah, no, players crave routines, and, you know, having a morning skate out in East Meadow, and then, you know, to get into Brooklyn, it's a different nap amount of time you can nap. It's a longer commute. It just really is different. I mean, the the Rangers had that for a while because their practice facility is up in Westchester County. You know, and the guys were living in Westchester and commuting into the city for games, or they were commuting up to Westchester for morning skates and then driving back. And that was, you know, 30, 35 minutes each way. And finally, the Rangers just said enough is enough and started having morning skates at the arena. And the Islanders have not done that. They want to, you know, conduct every morning skate at their own team facility because of the work, because it's a really good team facility. They're very comfortable there. The workout rooms, the you know, the amenities, they're comfortable there. But yeah, you know, I talked to Barry Trotz about this. You know, it's not normal. You know, it's not normal to have 2 home rinks.
Yeah,
it's not normal to have to commute for that. And NHL players do crave normalcy. I think the Belmont Arena, you know, it's, you know, from Garden City, it's, you know, depending on traffic, which is an issue on Long Island, you can be there in 15, 20 minutes. You don't have to drive into Brooklyn, which is hellacious, you know. You don't have to get on LIRR to go, you know. So it's going to be much easier. In many ways, playing at Belmont will be just as easy for the players as having games right across the street at Nassau Coliseum.
You know, we mentioned already Ilya Soroka and Oliver Wahlstrom. Another, you know, top prospect is Kiefer Bellows. But, you know, who are some like unknown guys that we should keep an eye out for when they get eventually called up, these prospects?
I think the organization, I think, certainly likes the defenseman Sebastian Aho, who we've seen a little bit here and there. I think they also like Witherspoon, who's been at Bridgeport. You know, and looking down the road, they just signed Samuel Bolduc. And I know he's made some favorable impressions within the organization. And you talk about goalies, they really like this kid, Jacob Skarek, who was in his first season over in North America. Really tall, skinny kid, very focused. They like his skills a lot. So, you know, there are some things in the pipeline coming up beyond Bellows and Wahlstrom.
You know, one trade that almost went down, or maybe you can provide a little insight, was Lamoriello was on the verge of he was talking to the Minnesota Wild about a deal where the Islanders would get Zach Parise in exchange for Andrew Ladd. I don't think there was anything else more attached to that deal. I think it was just kind of a bad contract swap. Since you're the Isles insider, of course, how close was he to making that deal? And is that something that he could look into? Is he going to revisit that again, a possibility of that maybe this summer or after the season is over? Because I don't know, with everything being pushed back, I don't know how quickly they're going to be able to push to make trades and free agents and the draft and everything before you get started with mini camps again.
Yeah, I can't put a percentage on it on how close it was. I mean, you know, Lou shut down any conversation about that because I remember that came up in the conference call when they acquired Pajot at the trade deadline. He was also asked a few questions about the Parise thing, and Lou would not engage, which is not surprising. And one of Lou's talents is to not only not engage, but to convince everyone who might know something to not engage. Sources who would normally tell you stuff will not talk about Lou's business. So I can't tell you what the percentage is of how close that deal was. It was very obviously talked about. I know Lou, I know he couldn't get him re-signed with the Devils, but there's certainly a history there between Zach and Lou. And will that be revisited? I certainly think, there will be more discussions along that line, but
from what I was reading, it seemed like they couldn't put it together. It was happening so fast, and the deadline. The time of the deadline was so close that it would have taken a lot of time just to put the parameters of a deal into effect, and that's ultimately the reason why it didn't go down. Yeah, no,
that was the understanding. If he had 3-4 more days, maybe something could have been worked out. And you know what, Zach, Zach would have been an immediate upgrade for the short term,
Yeah.
but long term, I would say acquiring Zach's contract would be akin to the Mets bringing in Robinson Cano. It just, I wouldn't want that contract at this point.
Yeah.
Is Josh Hosang a bust yet?
It's funny. I just wrote about him again today because he put something up on Twitter and Instagram, his thoughts on, all the civil unrest and protests. And, obviously Josh comes from many mixed heritages, so he can identify with a lot of different ethnic groups. I certainly don't sense any impulse on the Islanders organization's part to re-sign Josh after this season. He's gonna be a restricted free agent. He was loaned out to the San Antonio Rampage on February 28th. And to me, all things can change. To me, that kind of spelled the end of his time with the Islanders. I hate labeling anyone a bust just because, all these guys are talented and they've gotten to a certain level and they can play hockey a hell of a lot better than I can. So, who am I to say, oh, this guy's a bust? But in terms of not making the Islanders, I don't think Josh has a future with the organization at this point.
Well, all right, two more questions. To touch on that, to play off of the Hosang question, do you think Michael Dal Cole is a bust? Or do you think that he is
Well, so he gets picked 5th overall. And when you pick a guy 5th overall who's a forward, I'm sure the expectation is that he is going to be a top 6 forward.
right?
And I don't think, and Barry has said this, it's not likely at this point that Michael Dal Cole projects into a top 6 forward role. He is going to be more of a grinder.
Right.
That being said, Barry really, really, really likes his game and what it's developed into. And you talk to Barry and he tells you that Michael's going to have a long career in the NHL, in this 3rd and 4th line role. He's not going to be, might not even be a 10-goal scorer each season. So, you weigh it against where he was drafted. And, it's not Michael's fault where he gets drafted. That was the Islanders' decision. I think Michael can be an effective player in the right role. It's just not going to be a starring role. And then you have to decide, was it worth a 5th overall pick to get, a role player essentially. But, he can compete at the NHL level and he has improved under Barry.
Right.
So, you're getting a guy that can be useful in situations.
All right, our last question, because we know we got to let you go.
I got one or two after this.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll let Clem. Clem has the floor.
All right.
I work for him.
All right. I like them. I know fans like them. What are the chances we get a one night with the Fisherman jerseys again? What are the chances we get the Islanders wearing the Fisherman jerseys for one night again?
There really does seem to be.
I never had a problem with those jerseys.
I like them. I like them a lot.
Particularly ate them the way everybody else did.
Yeah, no, I remember, in the 90s when they were introduced, just like shaking my head, going like, how can you get this so wrong? But there really is this retro thinking about those jerseys now. You see them selling at the Coliseum. You see more and more people wearing them. You got books about them. Look, if the Islanders are smart marketing-wise, they'll take advantage of that.
One night only thing would not be a bad idea at all.
Yeah, I'm not asking for a whole season, just one night only.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I would take that as an alternative 3rd jersey over just the blue NY mess that they have.
Yeah, Stadium Series jersey.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that one. I certainly hated the black jersey with the NY. That
I like the black one.
I didn't hate
the only Islander fan in America that liked the black.
well, I mean, but to me, the problem was going to a black jersey is such a knee-jerk reaction because black jerseys sell, right? And you're doing this all for marketing. But, you know, the Islanders blue and orange, you know, that's kind of their tradition, regardless of what the uniform looks like, right? They're a blue and orange team, and I think you get away from it. It was the same deal. Like, and I talk to Butch Goring about this all the time. Like, if you remember the Los Angeles Kings jerseys from the 70s.
Oh, like the purple and gold?
Yeah, that was
Purple and gold, right? To me and to Butchie, the Kings were so associated with purple and gold, and it made so much sense. Those are, you know, quote unquote royal colors, and you're the Kings, right? It did have some historical basis, and you're also the same colors as the Los Angeles Lakers, who are playing in the same arena. You know, there's some you know, symmetry there, and then all of a sudden you go to the black and white jerseys because, you know, your marketing people tell you that black jerseys sell better, you know, and I understand it's a business, but, you know, to me, you know, in the 70s, for, you know, from their inception through, I forget when it was, late 70s, the Pittsburgh Penguins were basically, you know, blue and white, you know, kind of light blue, darker jerseys, and, you know, and then I think it was right around 79 or so, they switched to black and gold.
Right.
And to me, that is the best example of switching to a black jersey, because it made so much sense, because all of a sudden it's like, yeah, it identifies with Pittsburgh much more than the blue and white jerseys, because the black and gold look exactly like the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know you're in Pittsburgh when you see those colors. To me, the Islanders going to this black jersey, it was like, you know, a black jersey with an NY. Who is this team? You know, it just, a jersey has to serve as some kind of anchor to the team's identity. And
Go ahead.
get back to circle it around, all these years later, I could see bringing back the fisherman's jersey, because it is a moment in the Islanders' history. It, you know, might not have been a good moment in the Islanders' history. You look at the jerseys and you can go, wow, that was crazy that time, huh? And, you know, so yeah, no, I wouldn't go kicking and screaming if you're going to tell me they're going to wear the fisherman jersey once or twice in the season just to, you know, make a little more revenue. I wouldn't have a huge issue with that.
But one thing I could say about Islander fans in general is we're very loyal to, we don't like change. Change is a very tough thing for Islander fans to adapt to. It's a very tough thing. The move to Barclays Center, for starters, it even got to the point where when they scored a goal, it was going to be like a subway, I think, like a subway coming, or the sounds of the subway. And Islander fans flipped out about that too. They are insanely loyal to this team, to all the nostalgia. I love it personally as a fan.
Same.
But I mean, it's just unbelievable, and it's just like you said. I mean, as soon as they changed that jersey, they hated it. They hated that. It was a Gordon's Fisherman all over again.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there were ways that it could have been done. They could have come up with an alternate jersey that, you know, I don't think would have, you know, sparked riots, you know. But it was, you know.
It was a tough time for
say, you know, better authors than me have written whole books about this, so you know. But it was a moment in time that they got wrong. Yeah. But now, 25 years later, or whatever it is, I think some of the vitriol has died down a little bit, and you know, maybe you could look upon those jerseys somewhat semi-fondly. I mean, they're still.
I would ask myself, what was worse, those jerseys? What fans hated most, those jerseys or Mike Milbury?
Oh,
I mean, the hatred for both was almost even.
well, I mean, overall picture, Milbury did more damage to the.
He sure did.
It took them longer to get rid of Milbury than it did getting rid of those Stitch Sticks uniforms. So,
all right, Clem, you good or?
I'm good with questions.
All right, so one last question we always ask on the show for all our guests, since everybody's in quarantine right now. It's a non-sports question. What is Andrew Gross currently binge watching?
what am I binge watching? My wife and I.
We're always looking for ideas. That's why.
We watched the heck out of Billions. We're waiting for Succession to come back. Watched the first 3 episodes of Westworld,
Right.
and have no clue what's going on. And I've watched every single episode in the series. Oops, I just hold on. Sorry about that, guys. I finished up BoJack Horseman, and I'm still emotionally distraught over that.
How is that? One of my friend raves about that show.
Honest to God, and people look at me like crazy. I think it's the best writing ever on any TV show.
Really?
It's so crisp and it's so insightful, and it comes off as this like kind of absurdist comedy, and then you finish the half hour and you feel as depressed as the characters are, and I think that's just great writing. So yeah, no, I got through BoJack, and I'll be honest with you, like me and my 2 daughters are here with me. They're 23 and 20. Like Sunday at 11:30, we're there with Rick and Morty. Can't get enough of that.
Yes.
I'll be honest. It's not like there's not like what I was watching, and I got through it when we first got into quarantine. I found Altered Carbon on Netflix, and I got through all both seasons of that, and I was very much into Altered Carbon. That would be my recommendation.
All right.
And also, if you have not seen it yet, did you watch The Sopranos?
I just finished that.
Clem just finished it. I watched it a long time ago.
Okay. Have you ever seen the series that Stevie Van Zandt did after The Sopranos? It's on Netflix.
Lillehammer?
Yeah.
That's the one where he was like the mobster in like Switzerland or something like that?
Yeah, in Norway. Yeah. That series.
It's still on Netflix though, because I find it. That series is crazy good. Yeah. I'm going to look it up. All right. Well, Andrew, this was great. Thank you. You're always welcome on our show, and every time you come on, we always have good chats about the Islanders. Thank you again for taking the time, and I really appreciate it. And enjoy everything. With everything under the circumstances, of course.
Thank you.
And again, we appreciate you always taking the time to talk some Islander hockey with us.
No, my pleasure, boys, and I hope you and your families are both doing well, and we can all gather in person sometime before I have to retire.
That sounds like a plan. I'm going to hold you to that.
All right, man.
Thanks a lot. We really appreciate
Thank you.
Take it easy. That was Andrew Gross, Islanders beat writer for Newsday. Check out his columns. He writes great stuff. He's awesome. And there you go, Clem. We have our Islanders insight as we get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, as you say, because when we had this with Isaac, we had this with Tim, and now we had this with Andrew. Not as much Jake, because Jake doesn't cover a team. He hosts his own show. Are you looking forward to hockey being back tomorrow?
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm ready to run through a brick wall for the Islanders right now. I'm so amped. It's just every time. Look, we haven't had a bad interview yet, which is great. Which is great for us. Not to toot our own horns, but the guys we bring on, I'm ready to run through a wall for the Islanders right now. It was the same thing when we were talking to, even with Isaac. I was ready to watch every UFC fight ever after talking.
You're ready to like take on Khabib.
I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready to kick his ass. But
no. He may watch. He may listen to your podcast. I'm not going to save you then. I'll just have to hire a new producer.
But no, I'm ready for hockey, man. Like I'm really ready to go. Like I'm excited. I was there at a bunch of games early on this season. I was ready. I was ready for the Islanders to make the playoffs. Then they fizzled out a bit, and then the COVID happened, and I'm like, hockey died. My outfit. But now after talking to Andrew, I'm ready. I'm ready for the Islanders, baby.
Well, getting back to what we were talking about before we did our interview with Andrew. So, like I said before, today was like that day where everybody just kind of took turns saying something stupid.
Yeah.
Started really last night with Drew Brees. A lot of people took Malcolm Jenkins to task for videotaping his response to Brees, basically telling him to shut the F up, which I thought was interesting. And it just kind of continued. You have the Jake Fromm comments. Then you have Laura Ingraham stepping in it like only she does. And then you have Max Kellerman. Now, I don't know if you saw what Max Kellerman said today.
I like caught a glimpse of it. I didn't really. I saw
Basically
someone
said in not too many words, nobody cares about hockey.
Oh yeah, that's why. Yeah, I saw that. Idiot.
Now, look, I've never been a huge fan of his. I've always thought he was very overrated, just like I always thought Stephen A. was overrated, because Stephen A. is only really good at talking about basketball, and he's not really good at talking about a lot of other sports.
Yeah.
And his big thing is like what Joe Beningo does. Joe Beningo will give you no insight on anything, but when the Jets lose, that's the only time you really ever want to tune in because he's just going to go off on one of his rants because he's a fan.
Yeah.
Stephen A. is kind of the same way. Stephen A. is very big on the overreaction, but provides you with little to no substance in anything else. And Max Kellerman is kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. You cannot sit there and say that nobody cares about hockey. Hockey is a very popular sport. It may not be as popular in cities that you think, but in New York, it has a very strong fan base. We just don't see it because nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
Everybody spends more time talking about baseball. I mean, listen, if we were in the middle of an MLB season right now, all they'd be talking about is how they would overanalyze every Mets and Yankees game known to man.
Yeah.
Mets lose last night, it would be an overanalyzation about Edwin Diaz or about Cano or, oh man, we should have Jared Kalina. With the Yankees, same thing. Cole blows a game, that's all the topic would be the entire day. In order to make things interesting, in order to make sports shows interesting, you have to broaden your horizons a little bit more.
Yeah.
And talking about hockey is a big part of it.
Yeah.
And then what I've noticed now is like a topic that used to be taboo for years and years is now all of a sudden on the forefront of certain shows, and that's wrestling.
Yep.
Evan Roberts talks about wrestling all the time because he's a big wrestling guy.
So does Peter
Now
Rose.
all of a sudden, it's like, oh, let's talk about WWE. When back in the day, nobody gave a rat's ass about WWE. Everybody mocked people for talking about WWE.
Yeah, because
Now wrestling is like, how many wrestling podcasts are there? How many?
Tons.
I mean, it's unbelievable. But the thing is that hockey is a really important sport to talk about because they're one of the first sports to come back.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, baseball is still dragging their feet on money.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it doesn't help in New York, especially because, when you have teams like the Yankees and the Knicks and the Nets, especially with Kyrie and KD now, and, the Mets are surging with, Pete Alonso and Jacob deGrom, hockey kind of loses its touch a little bit when you have teams like that overshadowing.
What also kills it is the fact that hockey starts during the heart of football season.
Yeah, so no one's paying attention, really. At least I'm paying attention, but not as much as I'm paying attention to football.
The reason why you're not paying attention so early is because it's an 82-game season.
Yeah.
And you can jump in anytime you want. So, for example, as Jet fans, our season normally ends by November, right?
Yeah.
Because in December, we're rarely talking about meaningful Jets football. So then we start getting into hockey a little bit more. We start getting into basketball a little bit more. But since those seasons run through June,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, because playoffs and all that stuff. I think the hockey season normally ends in April, playoffs start. Let's say by May, the end of May, we're pretty much giving the cup to whichever team. People can chime in late. The true hardcore fans can chime in late. Yes, is hockey an acquired taste? Yes, it is. I think you have to grow up being a hockey fan.
Yeah.
Okay, my dad was at the Stanley Cup when the Islanders won the Stanley Cup in 80. I think it was 82. The last time they won the fourth cup, he was at the game.
Yeah, my dad was at that game too. It's weird.
So the thing is that when you grow up with that,
Hmm.
you're going to become more of an avid hockey fan.
Right.
Okay. People like Max Kellerman are probably not hockey fans. So this is why not that they're lambasting the sport, but they're not taking it very seriously because all they give a shit about is basketball. Oh, basketball's coming back. And to me, basketball is 10 times more boring than hockey.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I like basketball. I think hockey's way more interesting to watch than football. But to say that hockey has no fans is so false. And the Predators showed that of all teams, Nashville. There's nothing you think more of in Nashville than football. It's down south. That's
Sure.
their bread and butter, football. But when the Predators were in the Stanley Cup, they
This was mob, dude.
exactly.
It was loud. That stadium was insane. That arena was insanely loud.
Exactly. No one especially myself. I didn't even like, oh, Nashville's in the playoffs? That's boring. And then you see the stadium, it's like, who are all these people? The fans come out, the hockey fans come out of the woodwork, just like
I'll tell you one better. I'll tell
exactly.
you one better. Vegas.
Yeah.
The Golden Knights, everybody thought when they put a team in Vegas that it wasn't going to be a huge draw because there's, the gambling and then that was a whole big issue. But everybody thought that it wasn't going to be as big of a draw because of the fact that it's Las Vegas and there's no really allegiances there. There's no allegiances to hockey because you have casinos everywhere and you have shows everywhere and you have all this stuff everywhere. The closest thing they have to a team before the Raiders and the Knights got there was UNLV.
Yeah.
So when the Golden Knights moved into the T-Mobile Arena, everybody was unsure if it'd be successful. Dude, they sold out every game.
Yeah.
They sold out all their season tickets. They sold out all the luxury boxes for the year. And they went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. They almost won it.
Hockey fans are loyal. And like we even mentioned earlier with the Islanders fans, Andrew was maybe the fifth person we've had on in the matter of 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've tweeted from the A1 account every time we've had a guest on. This was the guest, him coming on the show was the guest that got the most likes on this tweet. And I'm like, the Islander fan, and not just Islander fans, it's all fans. You can talk about Rangers fans, Penguins fans.
He's covered, the Devils.
Yeah.
He's covered, and he's, he does hockey stuff all the time. I think he's even on, he makes appearances on shows in like Canada.
Yeah, this man, look, hockey fans are die-hard fans, and they will fight tooth and nail with you about every little thing about their team. And
that's what I can't understand is like, honestly, like I like hockey 10 times more than I like basketball. Like I like the Brooklyn Nets, but I'm not going to sit here and be like this rabid Brooklyn Nets fan.
Yeah.
Yes, they're the team I root for. I stopped being a Knicks fan a long time ago, and I've been a Nets fan since the days of I'm not trying to, defend myself, but I'm talking like the days of, guys before you were born.
Yeah.
Rosen Petrovic, Armin Gilliam, just when they were a terrible basketball team. Kenny Anderson, Kerry Kittles, Kendall Gill, just to name a few guys. I mean, those are good players on otherwise, average to below average teams.
Mm-hmm.
But I have always, since I've been a Long Island guy my whole life, I'm always going to bleed orange and blue.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I have three really big Islander friends. My friend Jack, Noel, and Chris. And, we always, when the Islanders go to the playoffs, we are always trying to get tickets to go to the playoffs. Hockey playoffs are no joke, especially at the Coliseum.
Exactly, and that place is rocking. Every chance you get at the Coliseum, it's amazing. It's amazing hockey.
So it's like, but like I said, today was just that day where somebody said something stupid, and then the next person went, and the next person went, and the next person.
Yeah, they were just like, you know what? How can I out-dumb these people? Yeah. You know what?
I'm sorry, but now is not the time to sit there, and this is where I'm going to take Drew Brees to task.
Yeah.
Now is not the time to sit there and say, well, it's, I find it offensive to kneel for the American flag and all that stuff. Okay, fine. Like I said before, that's your opinion. You have your right to it, and I totally respect it. The timing of your comment is just so bad.
Yeah, and you think a guy like Drew Brees would be smart enough to know when and where is the right time and place to say that.
Now,
I agree with him. I agree. Again, I mentioned
nothing wrong with agreeing with him. You can. Yeah. I have no problem because honestly, I'm going to give Drew Brees a bit of a mulligan on this one because, quite frankly, he has done a ton for the New Orleans community. being a role model for the Saints.
Yeah.
He's donated money through various charities. He's helped out with I think coronavirus or donating masks or whatever it was. Drew Brees has done a lot. So I'm going to give him a bit of a mulligan on this one.
Yeah, like, and I said, like, I just think what he said was just taken out of proportion. Like, again, I wouldn't kneel for the flag. I would never kneel for the flag, but I'll back whatever, Colin Kaepernick is backing 110%. I'll back whatever he is, but just kneeling for the flag is something I will not do. And I think that's what he was just trying to say.
And then Jake Fromm, who has I wouldn't have said a word. I would have just, or whatever, some text from 2019 came up and, again, it's the ignorance of it all. And therein lies the problem. It was kind of funny because today, like my cousin is like, we had gotten, remember I told you about what happened yesterday?
Yeah.
So he texted me a TikTok video of Joe Biden, and he basically was just saying like, oh, well, back then he was racist too. And I was kind of sat there and I was like, you know what, dude, I don't really give a crap if you want to vote for Trump. I'm like, if you really want to vote for him, go vote for him. I go, I don't think any less of you. I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and never talk to you again. I mean, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, this is your right to vote. But please do me a favor and don't steamroll me with your political bullshit.
Yeah, that's
I don't need it, and I don't really care. And if you want to really throw down some shade, okay. I'm like, do you see Donald Trump going out into the streets right now, trying to talk to the African American community, trying to like maybe tries to ease a little tension?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, no, I don't see him doing that. You know what I saw him doing? Tear gassing a park so he can do a picture in front of a church. Okay. Meanwhile, listen, I'm not campaigning for Joe Biden here. I'm just trying to say that in the past is the past, but the present is the present. You vote for whoever you want to vote for, but spare me your Joe politics bullshit. And that's the problem with social media is everybody, whether you're just an average Joe like me and you, or an athlete or whatever, thinks they know everything about politics.
Yeah.
And we don't. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I do. When November 3rd comes up, I will vote with my gut. Mm-hmm. And I will vote with who I want to vote for. And I've gone both sides.
Yeah.
I voted Republican and I voted for Democrat. I voted for George Bush. I voted for Barack Obama. Okay, so I don't lean towards a particular party. I vote with who I feel like will lead the country the best.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you should do as a country. You should.
Players constantly coming out. And then the other thing today was about Eric Reed. Eric Reed came out. I don't know if you saw like one of his tweets, and he was saying, "Oh, it was back to the whole Colin Kaepernick needs a job, and you should be calling him and all that stuff and whatever." Basically, what his point was, Colin Kaepernick was right all along. It's time for the NFL to get off their ass and give him a job. Here is my argument with that. Okay, it's not about whether Colin Kaepernick is deserving of a job. He is. The question is, does he want to be a backup in the NFL? And you see, I don't know if he wants to be a backup.
Yeah.
I think his celebrity status at this point, his deal with Nike, all this stuff, the kneeling and all that, he feels a sense of entitlement to a starting job. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't get that starting job, who knows if he plays the card? Who knows if he plays the, well, here, the NFL's out to blackball me again, so they're making me a backup. Okay? Teams had chances to sign Colin Kaepernick. They chose not to. And then what Colin Kaepernick did, which I thought was just like, again, it was just nothing more than media. It was him being a media whore. He stages that workout for teams.
Yeah.
There was no seriousness to him wanting to play for a team. He was making a ton of money off Nike.
Yeah.
So, I mean, before guys like Eric Reed run their mouth and they sit there and they start saying, well, it's time to give Kaepernick a job. Well, what if he doesn't want to be a backup on my team because I don't think he's a starter, then it's on Kaepernick to take the job. It's not on me to give him a job.
Yeah. Like, I've said this time and time again. Do I think Colin Kaepernick should be in the NFL? Yes. Does he suck as a quarterback? Absolutely. This guy is terrible. I've said this time and time again. People forget he lost the starting job with the 49ers to Blaine Gabbert.
I agree 1,000% with you, by the way. Yes, he deserves to be in the NFL, but he is not a starter in this league.
He's not. No, and that's another reason why I don't think teams signed him. Because they know that if you say I'll revert it back to when Sam Darnold was his rookie year. People were clamoring the Jets to sign Colin Kaepernick as a backup. They were saying, sign him. If Colin Kaepernick came to the Jets Sam's rookie year, no one would be talking about Sam Darnold. No one would be talking about Jamal Adams. No one would be talking about any of this shit.
But just imagine what we said, right? Just imagine what you and I had said on the show a bunch of times when we talked about Kaepernick. You bring in Colin Kaepernick now. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to be. It's not to disrespect Colin Kaepernick whatsoever. It's just more of the optics of it all. You are asking for trouble.
Yep.
Because it's not about his ability. It is not about his skin color. I overlook all that stuff because honestly, I think he could be a good backup quarterback. I don't think he's a starter. I don't think he makes a team better by being in the starting position.
Yeah.
But as a backup, he is a very capable backup, and he should be able to handle a backup role to whoever is a quarterback. Here is my issue. You sign Colin Kaepernick tomorrow, and week one, when he shows up at whatever stadium that he's playing at, there's going to be death threats. There's going to be bomb threats. There's going to be people with itchy trigger fingers, maybe, God forbid, trying to harm him in some way.
Yeah.
The amount of security around the stadium is going to be quadruple what you're accustomed to. You're going to probably have to bring in a freaking SWAT team.
Yeah.
And see, it's just at this stage in his career, it's not feasible. But one thing I'll always say about Colin Kaepernick was he knew what was on the line, and he put his balls on the table, and he went for it all, even though he knew the ramifications could be that his career would be over. I will always respect what Colin Kaepernick did to show how he feels about police brutality. I will always respect it, and I've always respected it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, is that unfortunately, in a world where you have, I hate to say it, rich white ownership, they don't look kindly to that type of thing.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll back him, with police brutality against African Americans 100%. Kneeling for the flag is just something I could never do, But again, I will back him, support him 1,010%. Kneeling for the flag is something I just couldn't get behind. I knew what he was doing it for. I respected that. I just didn't respect him actually, doing it, if that makes any sense.
And for all the ass bags who keep talking about how coronavirus is a hoax and all this bullshit, let me throw some facts on you. Over the past couple of days, 2,600 new cases have popped up in Florida.
Jesus.
Where, by the way, guess who are training in Florida right now? The Mets.
Right.
Okay? So not to drop that bombshell. Now listen, we knew this was going to happen. We knew that when you start opening up things, you're going to see cases go up. It was pretty obvious. Okay? But for all those people out there who constantly say that, coronavirus is a hoax and people making such a big deal about this and making a big deal about that, just remind yourself of that. 50 Alabama players went back for spring practices or summer practices today or yesterday. 5 have already tested positive. And now a player on the Pittsburgh Penguins has reportedly tested positive. Okay? So we need to understand and remember that while all these protests are going on, we're still dealing with an outbreak.
Yeah.
We are still dealing with a pandemic. Okay? It has blinded us to the fact of what's going on right now, but this is some scary stuff. Now, this should not. What worries me about the NCAA is they see a team like Alabama getting it, and they're going to cancel the season.
Yeah.
Okay? And I hope that's not the case. Because a lot can happen between now and September. You could have a lot of healthy players. Fair enough. Now, we don't know which Alabama players tested positive because they won't release who it is. But that being said, which could easily mean that they're quality players on the team. Okay? But when all is said and done, these are the things that we have to remember, that while all these protests are going on, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And we can't forget that.
Mm-hmm.
So it just reminds you, wear a mask if you're going out. Keep your distance. Make your lives a lot easier on yourselves. Listen, if you're protesting, you're protesting. We are not going to stop your God-given right to do that. Or no one should ever stop your God-given right to do it. But just be mindful, and Cuomo said this perfectly today. Just be mindful that we are still in the middle of a pandemic. Wear a mask, try to keep your distancing, but just be mindful of the fact that we're still going through a COVID-19 pandemic. So before we get out of here, Chris, any parting gifts?
I had another quiz for you and I forgot. Oh, yes, here it is. Okay, ready? If you want to do this quick. There have been oh God, what was it? I didn't write this one down like an idiot. There have been a few past Royal Rumble winners who have won it multiple times. Can you name those guys?
Well, Hogan is definitely one.
Yes.
How many are there?
If I know this correctly off the top of my head, I believe There are four. I believe
Four.
four. I'm not sure though. That could be more. I could be lying.
Okay. Hogan,
Yes.
Triple H,
Yes.
Seth Rollins.
No.
Really? Why
Seth
do I
Rollins?
think he won? He's won two.
He's only won it once.
Okay, he's only won it once. Okay. Batista.
Yes, he won it twice.
And I'm gonna say Shawn Michaels.
Yes, and there's one more. You've named them all so far, but there's one more. Oh, two more. Sorry.
You said four.
Yeah, I know. I'm lying. I didn't prepare this one very well.
No, you didn't. And that's this
There's
is
two more.
I pay you good money to do this. All right. Flair.
No.
See, I knew it wasn't Flair. I don't know why. Part of me, I knew it wasn't him. But I don't know why. I knew he won it in '92, I think, and then I thought he had won it again. Roman Reigns,
No.
Randy Orton.
Randy Orton's one.
Okay.
Oh, make that two more. I'm sorry. After that, now there's two more.
Wait,
I'm a bad guy. I didn't prepare this at all.
okay. So
Now
there's
more.
two more outside of Randy Orton.
Yes, now there's two more officially.
Okay. Edge.
Edge is not one. No.
Edge is not one. Wow. I would have thought it was. He definitely was. Are they more recent or more past?
One recent. Well, they're both in the past.
Oh, wait a
really.
minute. Austin
Yes, Austin's one.
and The Rock.
No.
The Rock has not won multiple Royal Rumbles.
Nope.
Damn, I really thought I had that one.
I will give you a hint. This person is on the same level as The Rock.
Was he big during the Attitude Era, or is he
No.
more like current?
Yeah, he was big. He was huge. Still is huge. But he was big, really big during the ruthless aggression era.
The Big Show?
No.
Oh, Kurt Angle.
No.
Really? Wow, why can't I get this last one?
I will give you another hint. He came in to win his first Royal Rumble. He came in at number 30.
Jericho?
No.
Came in first in the Royal Rumble at number 30. Oh, Cena.
Cena. Yep.
Oh, God. I didn't do too bad.
No, yeah, not too bad. I mean, I fucked up more than.
Okay, I want you to make this like a segment now.
All right.
So you're going to have to try to do a little work.
All right. I'll do some work.
Okay. But, okay. So that's it for you?
That's it for me.
Okay. As for me, something interesting came up. Did you happen to see it all? I know you don't really follow Impact Wrestling, but did you happen to see the commercial for Slammiversary in July?
I did not.
Okay. Basically what they did was the commercial centered around them kind of trolling WWE for firing all the wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
And they put a lot of the fired wrestlers into the commercial.
Really?
So Gallows and Anderson, EC3, Mike Kanellis, and Maria, and Drake Maverick, but in Impact he was Rockstar Spud.
Yeah.
We're all in the commercial. And I think there was someone else in there, but I can't remember who it was.
Well, I'm watching it right now.
I think maybe I want to say Eric Rowan might have been in it, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So here's the problem with the commercial. Okay, I guess they're teasing a return. I'm going to take a guess and say they're teasing a return. The problem is when you watch all those wrestlers and then you watched how WWE didn't really use them very well.
Right.
Is it going to make you order Slammiversary?
I don't know, man. I mean,
are you going to pay, what is it, like $40 maybe to order Slammiversary on pay-per-view? Are you going to really pay that money to see if EC3 shows up at Slammiversary when he was barely – he lasted about as long as a mouse fart in WWE?
I don't know. I mean, look, the one thing I will say about EC3 is, though, when he came over to WWE, two of my friends who do the Phenomenal Forum, they were talking up EC3 like he was the next coming of John Cena. Like I would mean like I was
Because they
so
built him up that way in Impact, but like I mean, yeah, he was a good heel. Like I thought he was a very good heel, but he's not a face by any stretch of the imagination. But I thought he was better. He's like an MJF, only he looks more jacked than MJF does.
well, yeah, that's what they were saying. They were like, this is the best talker throughout New Japan, Impact, NXT, everything. Like this is the guy we're gonna have to watch out for. I'm like, oh my god, like I can't wait. Like I was excited. I was ready. Like after talking to them about this, I was ready to run through a wall for them.
I'm sorry, your friends are wrong.
Yeah, I was like, I reminded about them constantly. I'm like, you guys couldn't have been more wrong. This guy.
But I'm saying, like, the way those guys were underutilized, maybe Gallows and Anderson, but they were more of a comical tag team behind AJ Styles. They were never really taken very seriously in the WWE, especially when they were maybe when they were close as the OC. It was a little different.
Yeah.
But none of those guys. So if Mike Kanellis shows up at Slammiversary, am I really going to care? No. If EC3 shows up, am I really going to care? No.
No,
and Drake Maverick is probably not showing up because apparently he got a contract with WWE after NXT last night.
Yeah,
WWE took a lot of, but WWE basically got criticized a lot for that in a negative way because they're basically saying that you just fired the guy, and then all because he puts his heart and soul into a match. It's like you give him a contract right afterwards, even though he's lost.
Yeah.
Leo Rush tweeted that he wasn't happy with that. Like he kind of ripped the WWE for that, but that was basically the gist of it. So I guess if you're into seeing, if you hope to see, like they did the whole thing with the hacker, they did the whole thing, and they did it with like they had Kanellis and Maria, and you saw it just now.
Yeah, I just watched it. Yeah.
Listen, Slammiversary is like their answer to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And if that's what you have for Slammiversary, well, you're not exactly on the same level as WrestleMania.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And I mean, in no by stretch of the mind is any AEW's. If it's supposed to be double or nothing, then AEW's not on that level either yet, though. But I mean, I will say I was kind of hoping some of these guys would go over to AEW rather than Impact, like especially like Gallows, Anderson, and like Rusev. But like,
it doesn't sound like they're interested in a lot of the guys, though. From what I was reading, Gallows and Anderson could be a possibility.
They make the most sense because they were in the Bullet Club. And they have ties to New Japan, just like Cody and Kenny Omega and the Bucks. So,
but I also think at the same time, if they were to go to Impact, they could actually be a pretty good challenging tag team for their champions, the North, in Impact. The North are actually a pretty good team. It's Ethan Page and the other guy's name escapes me. But I don't really watch a lot of Impact Wrestling just because you just can't keep up with all the wrestling. Like it's way too difficult. But so there you have it. I mean, if that's what they're putting out there for Slammiversary, doesn't sound like a very promising pay-per-view. Although one thing old school ECW did well was take has-beens from WWE and turn them into studs in ECW so they could get another contract in WWE.
Right.
Because if you think about it, like I said before on the show, if it wasn't for ECW, Stone Cold Steve Austin may not have had a career. And a lot of people forget that part. A lot of people forget that.
CM Punk too.
CM Punk too. But it just goes on. Every time the WWE or WCW would release a guy, they would bring them to ECW to work, and these guys would be like, everybody would be like fired up because ECW was still an indie promotion at that point.
Yeah.
It's like the same vibe we get when I went to Cap and I saw Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same reaction. You're fired up because like a guy from TV is at the event. So, but like I said, it was just a very weird commercial to say the least. It was a very awkward commercial to say the least. But, who knows? But if you're going to watch Slammiversary, I mean, I guess, maybe those guys can get you never know if Impact can turn their careers around.
Yeah, who knows?
Just never really know. That's going to do it for us for the Moffett on the Mic show, courtesy of the A1 Sports Network. As always, you can follow the show on Instagram at Moffett on the Mic, Twitter at Moffett on the Mic, and my Facebook page as well. Follow the A1 Sports Network on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. A very special thank you to Andrew Gross, Islanders beat writer for Newsday, for coming on our show to talk some Islanders hockey with us. Please follow him on Twitter. Please read his stuff on Newsday. It is very, very awesome. It's very insightful with everything. So he read an article today about the Belmont Arena. That's why I asked him about it. Almost forgot to ask him about it. So, but again, please read his stuff. He's a good friend of the show, and we really do appreciate him taking the time to come on the show and chat with us. Clem, thank you for holding it down like you normally do. No show tomorrow night. We're going to take Friday off, and we'll be back Monday night. And if we happen to book any guests, we'll be the first ones to send you the details. Clem will send the details via the social media platforms. So one more time, follow the show on Instagram at Moffett on the Mic, Twitter at Moffett on the Mic, and the Facebook page as well. And you can follow the A1 Sports Network on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. On behalf of the People's Producer, Chris Clem, I am Craig Moffett. Everybody, wherever you are, stay safe. If you're protesting, just be careful out there. Always remember why you're doing it and not for the new television at Target. And again, please be careful with regards to COVID and everything. Keep your social distancing. Wear the mask. Don't be stubborn about it just because. Just wear it. Be safe. Wherever you are, have a great weekend, everybody. And we'll be back Monday night right here on the A1 Sports Network. Have a great weekend. Clem, I will talk to you Monday.